Welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. When you're in charge of anything, it is your responsibility to complete the task. You're the one who has to write that report. Being in charge of a client relationship, alternatively, you can turn in your receipts within 15 days. Accountability, on the other hand, is a different story. It isn't anything you have to do, it's a mental state. The distinction between self-management and having someone keep an eye on you help keep you focused on the task at hand. It's about taking charge. When we think of President Harry Truman, we think of him as a visionary. One of the first images that pops into my head: on his desk, there was a sign, "This is where the buck stops." That is the accountability motto. And because so few people subscribe to that viewpoint, it's a distinguishing feature of your leadership. Nowadays, every company seeks employees who have an entrepreneurial mindset. This implies that you should not wait to be instructed what to do, or those that need to be henpecked to get things done. Instead, it's about charting your own path and recognizing that regardless of your position, that you are the domain's commander. You don't just accept responsibility, you take ownership of it. And you're the one who makes it happen. That's what it is to be accountable to yourself. That's why you'll be successful. Let's take a closer look at how to do it. The distinction between accountability and responsibility. While responsibility may appear insignificant at first, it appears to be a semantic twist, but it isn't. It's a significant mental shift. Something can be held accountable by a group of individuals. You or the team may be in charge of a specific project. And it's possible that your coworkers are the ones that came up with the idea, with a suggestion for a new incentive plan. However, there is only one individual who is responsible. That is, they are held accountable. Whether something succeeds. That appears to be a serious situation, and it is. The most senior person is now the default. Is held responsible. If a reporter makes a serious error in a news piece, his editor, for example, might resign. Because the editor is meant to, in theory, to have been in charge of him. As a result, if you're in charge of a team, division, or corporation, in some ways, accountability is baked in. Included in your job description, but this isn't what we're talking about. Perhaps the most important thing to keep in mind: is there any successful professional who hasn't seen this? Anyone at any level can succeed if they make the right decisions. To be responsible for their actions. If you put more money on the line for yourself, this project will not fail on my watch, you might remark. That adds to the workload and adds to the stress. However, because you're treating someone, it's an added bonus. That the assignment and obligation are not the same than any other person. Your degree of dedication will be evident to anyone who is interested. And when it comes to promotions and pay hikes, who will they turn to for help? The individual who has already proven themselves that they feel at ease taking on the increased accountability that comes with being a leader. I want you to be that person. So, if being accountable to yourself is so beneficial, why aren't more people doing it? We don't everyone have six-pack abs for the same reason. Or if you're fluent in French, and you aren't one of them, if you grew up speaking the French language, it's a lot of labor. It necessitates a greater level of concentration, energy, and attention. And in order to keep it going, you must find a way to motivate yourself. You have a visceral reaction to it. Why is this significant to you? Here are a few ideas to get you started. To put yourself in a state of flow. To begin, consider what type of person you want to be. This isn't simply a case of, "Oh, I guess I'll have to hold myself responsible here, because it will help my career." Yes, a lot of things would be different. And we don't always follow through. Consider your identity if you want to stay motivated. What kind of person do you want to be in the world? How do you want to present yourself? When you walk out of the room, what do you want others to think of you? That he's intelligent, but he's a phony? Most likely not. It's all about personality. If you hold yourself accountable, you will succeed. You win the respect of others, and, more significantly, you gain the respect of yourself. You have self-respect. Second, consider the ramifications. What would happen if no one was held accountable for the project or whatever it is you're doing? What is the most likely scenario? The chances are that improvement would be slow or non-existent, as well as the dissemination and implementation would be dispersed around the country. You'd be squandering time and money. Now, particularly if you're working on a project crucial to the company's success, something mission critical, something that could be fatal. Consider the reversal. What if you took the initiative and assumed command of the situation? No matter what your position or title is. By promising that you would control whatever aspects you can, you'll make certain they're completed on time and done correctly? It appears to be quite different, and the project's future is uncertain. The fate of your firm, perhaps even your life, hangs in the balance. There's a lot you can do to make a difference. Finally, look for good instances. It might be discouraging at times to be responsible for your actions when you're frustrated because you don't feel like you're making any progress and the future appears bleak, and practically every project or endeavor has its own set of challenges. If you're in the midst of a downturn, however, staying focused on the long term is critical. Recall the events of the past, when you've successfully taken on a leadership role. And, once again, it's not about the title. It's all about your mindset and what you bring to the table. To the way you communicate with your coworkers also, keep good examples in mind. You've seen in other parts of your firm or industry of leaders who are held accountable and bringing their teams with them. When you're at your lowest, it may appear that what you're working on is a waste of time, is an impossibility, yet it's worth pausing to consider that anything like this exists. It's useful to have someone who has succeeded in the past. You can do it too, if they can. Here's how to be more accountable to yourself. Everything's impossible to do it all at once. That's simply excessive. It's the equivalent of making 10 New Year's resolutions. You will eventually get overwhelmed. You've given up on them all. That isn't going to help anyone. Instead, you must prioritize and know where to concentrate your efforts. This necessitates considering which activities to engage in are the most crucial for your supervisor and your organization. Which ones will help you grow in the long run? And which ones make the rest of the process go more smoothly? Let's dissect that. When it comes to prioritizing, the first place to look is your calendar. Is considering what your supervisor values the most as well as your business. It's likely that's where you'll get the most bang for your buck. After all, it's logical. You might be zealous about growing your company's revenue, efforts to create content. However, if your manager is unconcerned, all she wants to do now is concentrate. Regarding the new Asian expansion, your efforts will go unnoticed by her. She may even regard them as a hindrance or a distraction derived from actual work, so spare yourself some time and effort by making a strategic selection. You can figure out what your supervisor values the most. And, first and foremost, your organization, by inquiring. Your manager will most likely appreciate it. Indicate you're interested in something in the company's overall strategy. You can also extrapolate such data from your actions, as though you were reading the annual report of your company, or its press releases and publicity in the media. Aligning your emphasis areas with what your supervisor is concerned about is a wonderful approach to stand out, because she'll be following you certain specific metrics with great care. Next, consider your long-term professional development. When you're prioritizing and considering your options, where you can hold yourself responsible, this is significant because it has the potential to change the world. To open the door to new possibilities. As an example, you may believe that your firm and industry are related, will be subjected to a wave of automation in the years to come. If this is the case, having a good understanding of IT and coding is a must. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, could be a valuable asset. So, if you're working on a specific project or endeavor, let us know. concentrating on that's a good spot to plant your flag and declare, "This is going to be my website address." Finally, we are all far too preoccupied these days. So that's one more thing to think about when you prioritize. Is there anything I can do right now to make other things easier? In the foreseeable future? This is all about leverage. As an example, perhaps your group uses customer management software. That's a little clumsy and complicated. Furthermore, accessing it takes far too long. The data you're looking for on a daily level, that's a minor annoyance. However, if your entire staff is squandering 10 minutes per day, over the course of a month or a year, you'll be tinkering with it. That's a lot of time that's been squandered. If you were in charge of such project and told them, "I'm putting this at the top of my priority list. I'll see to it that this is taken care of." This is going to inspire a lot of loyalty and gratitude. The rest of the world has been putting up with it. However, no one has looked at the costs. When you've taken care of it, and make the cost savings evident, people will regard you in a different light. This is only one example. But I'm sure you can think of some like that in your own professional life, where some strategic leverage is being used. Investing today to solve a problem later can be profitable. Following these 3 tactics will help you achieve your goals. You're well on your way to effectively prioritizing, as well as recognizing where you need put in more effort to be responsible for your actions. It's wonderful to have a sense of responsibility, but not in the case of the impossible. You might be overjoyed at the prospect of holding oneself accountable. Something you feel like you're up against a problem, bring it, even if it seems impossible. That, however, is not a good idea. You can't set your sights so high at first that you're doomed from the start. Overpromising will not help you build a positive professional reputation. Instead, it's critical to create realistic goals for the sake of yourself and others. Let's look at how we can do that. First and foremost, you must be truthful to yourself. It's tempting to get caught up in the moment and overestimate your abilities, what it will take to complete a task. As a result, you'll be behind schedule. This is not a nice position to be right from the start. Instead than wishing for anything, start with what you already have. Begin with the facts. You can begin doing something right now. It will be really beneficial to you future project planning, which includes time management. Nothing fancy, just make a note of it once or twice a day. What you've been doing with your time, and how long things have taken you. Because your memory fades, don't wait and do it once a week. However, if you write it down in a notebook, it will be more permanent. Alternatively, make a spreadsheet before heading out to lunch, and after a few weeks, before you go for the day, you can develop a strikingly precise sense of what's going on around you, of how long it takes for specific things to happen. The better an estimator you are, the better off you will be. The better you'll be able to assess what you can really handle. Then, determine whether the work is difficult or impossible. It's fantastic to set your sights on something difficult. It has the ability to inspire and motivate you and your team to new modes of thought. But to be honest, certain things are simply unattainable. If you have 1,000 customer orders to fill, and have them delivered in 2 days, that is theoretically possible. However, you'll need people or, at the very least, a robot to be able to carry it out if your supervisor isn't providing you with the assistance you require, in such a way that it is structurally impossible. That's a waste of time. This brings us to our last point. This is all about controlling the expectations of others. It's critical to be upfront about what's achievable. It's simple to say yes in the heat of the moment. I think to myself, I'll sort it out later. It's painful to let your boss or coworkers down. And you might be concerned that if you refuse, you'll lose your job. They'll assume you're lazy or unwilling to work hard. Sure, those are dangers, but there is a far greater danger is making a promise and then breaking it as soon as it becomes evident you can't seem to get anything done. So, before you jump all in and proclaim, "I'm in," think twice. Yes, I am responsible for this. It's critical to engage in some wargaming. Determine what the potential stumbling blocks are. With the potential for things to go wrong, and have an open and honest discussion about it. Even if you do agree to give it a shot, you will be better protected. You can also include important clauses. I can assure you that the thing will be ready when you need it. Whether we have enough workers at the factory to make it. This can imply the difference between being noticed and not being seen. As a true leader and a person who keeps their promises, you can considerably improve your odds by using these tactics. By setting the correct expectations, you can increase your chances of success. For the sake of yourself and others, we've set our priorities. We've also established reasonable goals. Now is the time to dig in and get to work. However, there is one flaw. For almost all of us, focusing is tedious. Chasing shiny items is more enjoyable. And continue to jump on the next thing, and the next thing rather than hunkering down and making progress on the most crucial aim that you've identified. After all, what if this new idea turns out to be the next big thing? Isn't it true that we don't want to miss out? Yes, the gleaming thing is occasionally gold. This would be a fantastic area to concentrate on. However, this isn't always the case. It's an aluminum foil ball that draws your attention. After disturbing the endeavor, it skitters away. You had been working on a well-thought-out approach. It's time to let go. Here are 3 approaches to resolving the issue. And learn to concentrate. To begin, accept that it's natural to be bored. At various stages of the procedure, do you believe novelists enjoy every minute of their work? Sitting in front of the computer and scribbling their 500-page encyclopedias? I'm sorry to tell you this, but they don't. It can be exhausting at times. But it is their work that pulls them through, as well as assisting them in the creation of something worthwhile. If we have a great time writing every second, the better an estimator you are, the better off you will be. The better you'll be able to assess what you can really handle. Then, determine whether the work is difficult or impossible. It's fantastic to set your sights on something difficult. It has the ability to inspire and motivate you and your team to new modes of thought, but, to be honest, certain things are simply unattainable. If you have 1,000 customer orders to fill and have them delivered in 2 days, that is theoretically possible. However, you'll need people or, at the very least, a robot to be able to carry it out if your supervisor isn't providing you with the assistance you require, in such a way that it is structurally impossible. That's a waste of time. Novels would be published by a much larger number of people. The same can be said about your work. The fact that some individuals are easily distracted, maybe giving up or quitting, is actually beneficial to you. Because if you can get out of that rut, you can get out of anything and reappear on the opposite side. You receive the benefits of completing the task. Recognizing your displeasure is a big part of it. Or boredom at various stages of the procedure. This isn't always a bad thing. It's just the way things are. Next, accept that you will have to make difficult decisions. Conceptually, we're all aware of this. Of course, difficult decisions must be made, but here's the thing. What makes it difficult is that we must frequently be willing to give up something we enjoy. Let's pretend you've figured out what your top strategic priority is. And you're all set to go. And hold yourself accountable when it comes to it. It's something that your firm places a high value on. And you know, if you do it right, you'll be okay. You'll get a lot of great feedback. So far, everything has gone well. However, it will consume a significant amount of your time. As a result, you'll have to let go of some things. Now, some of them are probably not your cup of tea. That's all well, good riddance. However, there may be some pieces that you really enjoy. As if you were in charge of your company's mentoring program, or becoming a member of a multi-departmental committee, or serving as a superb client's liaison with whom you've been collaborating for a long time. Giving up those things might be excruciatingly difficult. But if you're serious about focusing, you might have to. Not everyone is capable of making such difficult decisions. Some of those chores may be revisited at a later time, when your new project is completed successfully. However, you must be willing to get there in order to get there. To let go of some things finally, one of the most effective concentrating techniques is currently, I'm just started. The Pomodoro technique is what it's called. It was named after the tomato-shaped timer that served as inspiration. Francesco Cirillo came up with the idea for the story. Is that you set your timer, which does not have to be a tomato. Of course, it could be on your phone as well. For about 25 minutes you operate with a laser-like focus and intensity. After which you should take a 5-minute pause. Then you go back and do it all over again. Basically, it's like timed work sprints. You take a lengthier pause after 4 Pomodoros. Rest and reset for 15 to 30 minutes. It can be difficult to get started on a work at times. Because it's too much to handle, maybe you don't know where to begin. As a result, having the discipline of a timer is beneficial. Can compel you to get started. And when you see how far you've come, it'll motivate you to keep going. That can motivate you and assist you in moving forward. Everyone has ideas, but only a few are capable of putting them into action. Use these techniques to sharpen your attention. Can assist you in achieving your goals and gaining attention. We create excuses because that is the human condition. We're all prone to go off track at times. Nonetheless, the most successful individuals are able to recognize their excuses early and return to the task at hand. If a problem or objection occurs, it's critical to always ask ourselves, is there a reason for this? An impediment that you can track and overcome in the future, or is it an excuse, a fiction you're making up for yourself? Let's have a look at how to tell the difference. If you have the exercise worksheet, you can use that as well. Please feel free to download it and use it as a guide. First and foremost, whether you're attempting to accomplish something, you're also up against several obstacles. Or voices that keep repeating themselves in your head. By writing things down, you may often begin to defang them. If you'd like, you can pause it and finish it right now. Make a list of all the reasons you're experiencing trouble. Maybe you have a feeling you're going to have a hard time. You may have items such as, I don't have enough money in my budget, or I've never done anything like this before, and have no idea how to accomplish it, or I'm unsure if my work is adequate. Make a note of whatever it is. Great, let's go on to the next phase. After that, search for patterns. Dr. Susan David, a colleague of mine, says, according to the author of the book Emotional Agility, it's crucial to ask yourself these questions. If the reasons you've written down sound like they've been told before, is this a topic that you frequently discuss? Or is it surrounded by a lot of emotion? If that's the case, it's possible that you have a valid cause. Is merely a pretext, a script that you've gotten into the habit of telling yourself over time. I'm not one of the in crowd, to be sure. As a result, no one pays attention to what I have to say. Alternatively, you may merely receive respect in this area. If you're a techie, this is the place for you. Or I'm not a fan of self-promotion like everyone else around here. There may be some truth to this. However, if it's particularly distressing to you, or if it's a recurring theme, seek help. At the very least, it's worth seeing and thinking about. If you're imposing a paradigm that already exists on the current circumstances, finally begin to come up with some solutions. We can't just give up when faced with difficulties. We need to figure out a means to get past them. So, for each reason or justification, consider the following. I'm not sure how I'm going to go around this. Let's pretend you have employees at your company. Non-technical persons should not be taken seriously. Is there someone you can turn to for help? A person with a technological background that you might enlist to assist you in making your case. And finish what you set out to do. Let's imagine you don't have any experience in a particular field. And now you're in the middle of something you're supposed to know what you're doing at all times. Is there an online course you could take, for example? Or are you able to employ a coach, or is there a colleague that can assist you? Who knows, maybe someone may be willing to show you the ropes. Let's say you're severely understaffed. To complete the task at hand, is there any way you could persuade some of your coworkers to participate in your initiative as a volunteer? Perhaps they can put a useful new skill to the test. Alternatively, gain access to a crucial decision maker. If not, perhaps you should concentrate on establishing expectations. And inform your manager I've done everything, and it's just not going to work. If she's prepared to put the deadline back a few days, for example, if you find a solution to solve it productively, that's great. So you're still keeping up with your responsibilities. We can all come up with a variety of justifications. To procrastinate, our success, however, is contingent on our skill. To overcome them and achieve genuine progress, you can do it if you use these tactics. We've been discussing the importance of holding oneself accountable. And the word "you" is crucial here. There are no systems in place to enforce the law from the outside. Or if there's someone looking over your shoulder. It's time for you to take control of your work life. As a result, you'll have to build your own structures. In order to facilitate accountability, here are a few options for you to think about. Leveraging is a particularly powerful method. A compulsion mechanism. Let's imagine your supervisor has told you that in order to grow in your career, you need to improve your public speaking abilities. You've made the decision to take on this challenge and overcome it. You will be held accountable. So, how do you go about doing it? One method is to force yourself to engage in a difficult task. By committing to something you won't be able to back out of, for example, you might say that you'll present at a conference. Or take the lead in your team's next month's presentation. Alternatively, you could be interviewed for the company podcast. Having that promise written down is a compulsion mechanism, and because canceling would make you feel or look horrible, you have a strong desire to prepare and perform well. Another option, which I discuss in my book, is to making a public commitment to reinventing you as a big step. You may make a promise to your pals that you'll go before the end of the year through the Toastmasters program. If you don't do it, you risk embarrassment. If you really want to boost the ante, you may make your commitment as highly public, as evidenced by your use of social media. You might use your blog or even put money on the line. Behavioral economists have created a website. Stickk.com is the name of the website, where you put your money on the line and make a promise. If you don't succeed, the money will be donated to your least favorite charity, a cause with which you strongly disagree. That's quite a motivator. Another method to incorporate success systems into your life is to read books on them. Is to make sure you're on the same page all of the time. With your coworkers, it is, for example, incredibly simple to end your meetings or discussions that provide a summary of the action items you've both made a commitment. Okay, Jennifer is going to provide me the client's information via email. I'll send Dieter your contact information. The new marketing brochure, it only takes 2 minutes, but it assures that the to-do list is completed. Hasn't been buried or muddied at any point along the process. Keeps both of you accountable by keeping track of the dialogue. I too am a huge fan of broad boundary setting. Consider the activities in your life for a moment. That will assist you in being the most successful, and then the ones, on the other hand, are on the other extreme of the spectrum, that stifle or obstruct your progress. What if you could make your decision-making process more straightforward? And make a list of things I usually do and things I never do. On Mondays, for example, I always work out. Wednesdays and Fridays are free days. It makes no difference if you're on a business trip or not. You figure out a way to do it since the choice is yours. Has already been accomplished. Similarly, if you've squandered a lot of time on social media, it's time to stop. You may have decided to create a policy in the past. I never check social media during work hours, according to this. Period. Done. Setting boundaries aids in the creation of regulations. It helps you stay on track. Finally, expect this to take some time. It will take some time and effort, but it will be worthwhile for you. To ensure that your technology is up to date when it comes to putting systems in place. When I mention technology, I don't necessarily mean computers. Anything electronic, but some people do well with it when their phones are chirping with automated reminders as well as note-taking software on the internet. Your system, on the other hand, could be old school with binders. As well as planners and notebooks, everything is fine. The important thing is to try out different apps. Try items until you discover the right combination. This aids you in achieving your maximum productivity. You need a system that allows you to keep track of everything. Have the ability to complete all of the chores you need to complete. To prioritize them and track their progress over time. That might be a paid system or something else entirely. As inexpensive as a legal pad, the important thing is that it works for you. Better systems lead to better outcomes. As a result, spending the effort to get this properly will pay you handsomely in the future for you, so you're holding yourself responsible, right? You've even put in place mechanisms to assist you. That's fantastic, but even the best of us have our limits. In the process, they frequently require assistance and support. Here are a few options to think about. So you'll always have a backup plan if you need it. You could start by starting or joining a group. A gang of masterminds. This is a well-known notion. Napoleon Hill first mentioned it in the 1920s, and it has since gained a lot of traction. Where a group of 4 to 8 persons, perhaps 4 to 8, is a group that meets on a regular basis, discusses their difficulties and opportunities, and provides each other with support and encouragement. This has the potential to be a very powerful force, because it enables you to recognize that you are not alone. You also have other personalities you admire. Someone you can rely on in times of trouble, or when you're at a loss for what to do. The trick is to carefully select the members of your mastermind group. It's important to tread lightly because evicting someone is really inconvenient. As soon as they've joined, having someone who is always negative is also a problem. Or the person who is always the center of attention can have a significant negative impact on the dynamic. However, with the appropriate set of people, everything is possible. You have the opportunity to make a significant advancement. If the logistics of a mastermind aren't working out, there's another option. Appear daunting, or you can't seem to find the proper individuals, is to locate just one, a companion who will hold you accountable. This person should be someone you like, respect, and trust, and who is working toward a goal of her own. It doesn't even have to have a similar goal. Maybe your goal is to completely revamp your company's image. Her goal is to set a new sales record on her website. The idea is that you check in with each other on a frequent basis. Mechanics are a subject for discussion. Maybe you send each other an email every morning to give an account of your previous day's activities. Alternatively, you may meet once a week for coffee or a Skype discussion. It doesn't matter how you do it, what matters is that you do it consistently. As well as your level of regard for the other individual, because what motivates you to act is frequently what motivates you to take action. Even when you're not in the mood is the humiliation you'd feel if you had to tell her, "I didn't do it, despite the fact that I claimed I would." Instead, you might channel your embarrassment into something productive. To get excellent outcomes and get things done finally, it's a good idea to perform an inventory on a regular basis of your closest friends and those with whom you spend the most time. Jim Rohn, the late speaker, has a famous quote that goes like this: "You're the average of the 5 individuals with whom you spend the most time." So, who exactly are they? Are they also representative of who you wish to be in the world? If someone is very critical or passive hostile, you should avoid them. Or doesn't appear to have faith in you or your abilities to achieve your most essential objectives. What do you think? Allow them to go. It's not necessary to make a big deal out of it and set fire to the bridge. Can you, however, resist seeing them every week? Eventually, you'll be able to reduce it to every 2 weeks. Since you're so preoccupied, then once a month, then once every few months? Yes, you can, and your life will be better as a result. Owing to this, the goal here, however we achieve it, is to make sure you're surrounded by the appropriate individuals who support, encourage, and assist you in your quest to be responsible for your actions. The launch was a flop. You recruited a new employee who didn't work out. Your presentation was well received by the leadership team, and it was quickly voted down. We've all been in that situation. Even if you've been working hard, every human, it's not always easy to keep yourself accountable. The key is to get back on your feet afterward. Of course, saying it is easier than doing it. Let's go over the 3 things you must accomplish. How to get back on track once you've failed. First and foremost, it's vital to comprehend why the failure occurred. Obviously, you want to avoid a situation like that. Preventing it from happening in the future, however, if you're unsure, you won't be able to do so. About the origins of the problem. So, what went wrong with the launch? Was it a coincidence of events? Perhaps there will be a stock market crash. People were panicked the day before. Or was it something you could have done something about? Perhaps the messaging wasn't thoroughly vetted. Perhaps there was a glitch in the system that you were under the impression that everyone was getting 3 follow-up emails were sent, but only 1 was received. The first task is to get to the bottom of things. Of the events that took place. When you fall from a bike or a horse, they say, you must immediately rise up and repeat the process. If you don't, you'll develop a fear over time. And you'll be too terrified to attempt it again. In the same way, you want to take action. Should get back on track as soon as possible. It would be simple to flee and hide for a while. Following a failure, you may be embarrassed or feel as if you've disappointed others. Or believe they don't want you to see them. But the truth is that you can't get out of the game. There's no time to be grumpy. Rather, commit to a certain action. This demonstrates that you are taking responsibility for your failure. As well as rewriting the script, assume you realized the launch was unsuccessful. Since you hadn't thoroughly tested the messaging, so, how do you go about it? Perhaps you'd like to lead a series. Focus groups with customers so you can find out what's on their minds firsthand, and correct the original erroneous assumptions. If the issue was caused by a technical glitch, maybe you're the one who makes the decisions, or maybe you're the one who. A thorough examination of your department's technical methods. To make sure you're aware of any potential issues right away, before they can have an impact on future launches. You can come back stronger if you take decisive action. And keep yourself in the game. Finally, it's a common weight loss scenario. Let's imagine someone makes a mistake and eats a donut. They shouldn't have done that. They become despondent and angry at themselves as a result. They believe they've already blown it. As a result, they consume the entire box of donuts. We can all see it from the outside. This isn't sound reasoning. A 300-calorie increase isn't ideal. However, an additional 3,000 calories is ineffective. But, for the time being, we've all been hurt. As a result of distorted logic like this, where you believe your blunder has ruined everything, everything has been lost. Allowing a minor blunder to become an excuse for a major blunder is not a good idea. Keep coming to staff meetings and don't check out. You're embarrassed to be seen by others. Don't stop responding to your boss's emails. Because you're having a bad day, don't criticize your coworker. Because you're having a bad day. These items aren't going to help. We all fail, and it's always a bad experience. People who avoid failure aren't the most successful. Because in this life, that is impossible. Instead, the most successful persons are the ones who succeed in the face of adversity. You can too by treating it with grace. Self-responsibility necessitates self-discipline. And, similar to going to the gym, it's difficult to keep it up day after day. That is why it is critical to acknowledge and appreciate your achievements. That, in fact, can be used as a motivator. If I achieve X, I'll reward myself with Y. This is something I do all the time, and it's one of my favorite things to do. As I was putting together this segment, I promised myself that when I finished writing 2 more, I'd share them with you. I'd go for a massage. It was a wonderful experience. Here are a few key points to bear in mind when it comes to congratulating yourself on a job well done. First and foremost, we clearly cannot be rewarding ourselves all the time, as entertaining as it may be. As a result, we must consider when to do it strategically. I'm a big believer in rewarding success. So, assuming I've prepared a detailed customer proposal, what should I do now? We have completed the development of this course or finish a presentation I'm putting together, then I'll get rewarded. It's possible that my stamina is dwindling. However, the allure of the party can help me cross the finish line on a regular basis. Second, it's critical to consider your options. Discuss the types of incentives you should use. On the one hand, it's obviously about whatever motivates you. So, if ice cream sundaes are your very favorite thing on the planet, and you've got a dreadful assignment ahead of you, that might persuade you to go ahead and do it. That's fantastic, but what kind of reward is that? Should be used with caution. In an ideal world, you'd like to be able to recognize something that is both pleasurable and beneficial in the long run, so that you can use it again and again. As I previously stated, a massage is an excellent example. If you prefer working out or going on a run, this is a great option. That's a fantastic prize. Maybe it's a social issue. Appreciate knowing you'll be able to have supper with some buddies. Alternatively, there could be a party afterward. If you can discover anything similar, this is the ideal circumstance. Is one in which you give yourself a reward at the same time you'll be assisting your work. One of my literary friends would give herself a treat. In order to write chapters for her book, she did this by going kiteboarding, which she enjoyed. She was out on the sea when she'd start thinking about the next chapter. As a result, it was a virtuous cycle. Finally, remember to rejoice in your victories. However, we must keep in mind that we are not machines. And we won't be able to work indefinitely to get there. Tony Schwartz, the author, has stated, "At work, we must regulate our energy. Also, keep an eye out for declines." That's a fantastic time to take a break. Even a 15-minute walk or a quick stretch break can be beneficial. This can assist you in refocusing and keep yourself energized as you progress rather than battling exhaustion and burnout. Make a conscious effort to relax. That's what happens when you attempt to be on all the time. It's wonderful to live a life full of accomplishments, although it took a lifetime of toil hard get there. That's not a good idea. Instead, make it a point to congratulate yourself on your accomplishments. If you keep up with developmental psychology research, you'll notice that you've probably heard that praising children is a poor idea. Because they are clever, because if they fail at any time, then they conclude that it was a blunder. They're also a bunch of jerks. As a result, they avoid taking risks and never venture outside of their normal routine. It's much better to commend action in this case. Rather than declaring, it's more like studying hard. Who they are as individuals, however, it turns out that there is an intriguing wrinkle. Because, when it comes to character flaws, it has been proven through studies that the contrary is true. It's lovely when a child is complimented for performing a good deed. However, research has revealed that is what makes a significant difference in their self-perceptions and subsequent actions. When you say, "Look at how much you shared," you're implying that you shared a lot. You're a supporter. In other words, you are that type of guy. And once you get that favorable label, you may move on to the next step. You begin to see yourself in that light. You act in ways that promote your identity. So, how does this relate to you, to all of us? Here's the deal, I'm going to put you to the test. Accepting responsibility and committing to it both require commitment. It necessitates commitment. And, as we've explored, this can be difficult at times. It takes a lot less effort to keep up, but it takes a lot less effort to keep up if you're not only holding yourself responsible. Instead, you're a responsible individual. When you begin to accept your true self, not only that set of activities, but also it becomes ingrained in your personality. As well as all you do, it shows up all the time in your life. If you're serious about taking this in and keeping it up, I'll ask you a question. Do you want to be a responsible person? The type of person on whom others can rely, who doesn't need to be watched. Or if they have someone hovering above them, someone who doesn't merely take responsibility for their actions, but goes above and beyond to hold people accountable. Nothing will be able to stop you if you do. Begin thinking of yourself as a responsible person right now. This identification will assist you in making the best decisions possible. And stick to your guns when it comes to the important stuff. In the corporate world, why do we have managers? It's straightforward. Since there are so many people to handle, they are not answerable to themselves. So they'll have to hire someone else to do it. However, if you hold yourself accountable, you will succeed. That's how you know you're dealing with a true leader. You don't require monitoring or enforcement from outside sources. You know what to do and can concentrate and carry it through. As though you were a true pro. That's the type of person who attracts attention. As well as the fact that leaders strive to promote because they serve as a role model for everyone. In the first chapter of this course, we discussed how to develop an accountability mentality. How to keep oneself motivated to go above and beyond, how to remain on track and prioritize your tasks. How to create reasonable goals and, in particular, how to get through the excuses that keep us all back from time to time. Then, in Chapter 2, we looked at how to go about doing it. How to put your accountability plan into action. Having the correct systems in place is a big part of it. Whether it's a technological issue or being surrounded by a group of persons who is able to assist you and to maintain your resiliency in the face of adversity, we also discussed how to get back on your feet after a setback. Also, how to truly appreciate and celebrate your achievements. Finally, we discussed how to accept responsibility by adopting it as an integral part of your personality. It's now time for the final phase. Keeping everything going, putting the puzzle pieces together. Making responsibility a habit of life is also important. You now have the resources and expertise necessary to make it happen. And best of luck. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.